We have a really great session for you guys today, which is how to launch a mobile game on Reddit. And, this is a session where you're going to learn about how Reddit is a perfect place to launch a successful game, and kind of like the ways to use Reddit ads as a excuse me, sorry, and a great way to see how Reddit ads can be used to your advantage. So today's session is not going to be about a step-by-step guide that was in a previous webinar, which I can share with you guys later. But today is going to be all about strategy. So my name is Kat. I'm on channel marketing here at Reddit, and our team is focused on helping SMB and mid-market clients like yourselves find success and see success with the Reddit ads platform. Um, Before we get started, a few housekeeping things. You guys probably will have a ton of questions, so feel free to ask those in the Q&A box and we will answer them at the end. And you definitely want to stay till the end because that's where we'll be taking note of the attendees and selecting a winner who will win a one-on-one chat with the Reddit performance specialist. And this is really great because our self-serve advertisers don't have access to a Reddit ads person on the sales team. And this is a chance for you guys to kind of review your campaign setup, ask any questions about targeting, click trackers, that type of thing. So definitely want to stay for that. But yeah, we have a ton of stuff to talk about. So I'd love to introduce Josh Zimmerman, my colleague and friend, and he will introduce himself.
All right. Thank you, Kat. So, hey, everyone, really excited to be talking to you today about all things mobile gaming. My name is Josh, and I've been here at Reddit for 3 years. And I've been doing a lot of work with mobile gaming advertisers, specifically within the UA space. So a lot of familiarity with various titles ranging from mid-core RPG to even casual games that work really well on Reddit. And so I'm here to talk you guys through our basic best practices for launching mobile games on our platform. And at the end, as Kat alluded to, we'll have some questions. So sure, a lot will come up and feel free to ask away and I'll try my best to help answer. All right. So I'm going to be walking through best practices as it relates to mobile gaming. And in terms of the agenda, I'm going to quickly run through some high-level gaming insights about Reddit. Surprisingly, gaming is the #1 category, a little sneak peek there. And so going to talk through some really great insights we have about just gaming overall on the platform. Secondly, best practices, which is going to be the meat of the presentation, walking you through our 5 best practices as it relates to launching a mobile game. And I'll caveat by saying we catered this presentation to gear towards launching a new mobile game. So let's say there's a soft launch and you wanted to test out in some geographies outside of the United States, which is typical for most gaming advertisers in the UA space. So talking through what that soft launch process looks like, all the way through the worldwide launch, and then obviously optimizing throughout into an evergreen strategy. And then lastly, we have a great case study to share with you to talk through what one of our successful mobile app install advertisers was able to accomplish. And hint, it's a car racing game. So that's all I'll give away for now. And then lastly, before diving in, the biggest I guess requirement with mobile app install games is making sure that we're compliant and that we have the attribution partners in place when accepting post-back activities in the Reddit ads platform. So I'm excited to say that we do have that available now. It only took a little time, a couple of years after we launched the mobile app install solution, but we now have it, which is really exciting. And this obviously makes our lives a lot easier when it comes to optimizing the campaigns on a day-to-day. So we are certified with all of our major attribution partners within the MMP space: Adjust, AppsFlyer, Coachava, Branch, and Singular. So wanted to call that out first. All right, so we will get right into gaming insights. Cool. So spoiled this a couple minutes ago, but gaming is the largest category on Reddit. And that's why it's so important for a lot of these mobile gaming advertisers to find scale and efficiency as it relates to finding the relevant communities on Reddit that really make sense. And something that we've actually found beyond gaming is there are other communities where these gamers hang out in. And so that's something that I can speak to a little later on when it comes to best practices of thinking of attributes beyond the gaming communities where these users and Redditors may be. So if we're thinking about, gamers and the types of activities they do, we can also assume that maybe some gamers are into programming, or maybe they're into comics or cryptocurrency, whatever it may be. And so that's the beauty of Reddit, in that we have over 100,000 communities that speak to people's passions and interests. But gaming, obviously, being the most important for everyone on the platform. 88 million monthly visitors, massive 2.9 billion monthly views. Engagements are growing year over year, as you can imagine right now, especially with COVID. That's definitely benefited a lot of these mobile gaming advertisers. So the engagements is really impressive in that, people that are coming to Reddit aren't just, looking at posts and leaving. They're actually actively engaging. So, upvoting, commenting on their favorite communities or posts. That's an activity that we see across the board, and we're continually seeing increases there year over year, which is really exciting. In terms of demographic breakdown within our gaming audience, it does skew millennial. So 18 to 34 is the sweet spot in terms of the majority, followed by these other buckets you see here. And then gender breakdown, this is actually a really big misconception about Reddit, is that it's predominantly male, and all you can do is maybe run like an RPG game and find success there from a down funnel perspective. But the reality is we've run a bunch of casual games that are maybe more female centric in some instances, and we've seen really good success there. So I'd say don't completely rule out Reddit when it comes to testing any game. There's a community for everyone. You say that, and there really is. We have an account team here, especially if you're looking to scale your game in a big way, that can help you come up with really cool targeting recommendations for the various audiences you're looking to reach. So 56% male, 44% female, and the female communities are actually growing in size year over year. And so I think we're actually going to be closer to 50-50 come, the next few years, which is really exciting. All right, so we have a bunch of mobile gaming communities across Reddit, over 200 and growing. Here are some just sample titles that you can see here: Golf Clash, CSR Racing, Harry Potter. By no means is it a requirement to have a subreddit community dedicated to your specific title. But you can see there are a good amount of fans that do engage with these communities. So Golf Clash has 17,000 fans, CSR Racing, 24,000 fans, Harry Potter, 40,000. And again, these are the communities. So you can get a sense of like how many Redditors are really engaged with their favorite titles. We have iOS gaming, we have Android gaming communities, and you can see kind of like what the other top communities look like on the platform as well. So people always ask, like, do I need to create a community for my title? The answer is no. And the reality is actually the vast majority of the moderators that create these communities are actually fans of the game. So they'll go in and they'll create their own communities. And then if, let's say, the advertiser wants to engage with the moderator, that's something that can be worked out on the back end. But just so you know, this is definitely a play you can engage with as it relates to your strategy. And Redditors spend a lot of time gaming. These are some stats from ComScore and Global Webinex. So about a third of Reddit gamers play 6 hours per week. It's a lot. And about half of those who game for 10 hours a week are Redditors. So Redditors love gaming. There's no doubt about that. And I've even since I've joined Reddit, I've been getting into the platform, and I've been engaging with a bunch of various gaming titles myself. So I've become a gamer, but not that active. And then you can see here on the right-hand side, gamers do spend more time than any of these other destinations. So really, really valuable insights there. And again, this is all based on third-party data. All right, let's get into the meat of the webinar. And this is speaking to our launch best practices for mobile gaming advertisers. And this is specific to UA. So obviously, if you're a mobile gaming advertiser and you're doing more brand awareness pushes, there are some best practices around that as well. And actually, that is one of the best practices that we'll dive into. But for the most part, this is going to be focused around the down funnel successful campaigns that we've seen within mobile gaming. So 5 best practices. And again, this is starting at the at the soft launch, which isn't going to be relevant to everyone because games are being advertised now that have been around for a while, and that's completely okay as well. But wanted to talk you through identifying the markets for your soft launch. So how is Reddit identifying which markets could work really well from a testing perspective outside of the US? Obviously, we are predominantly US, but with that said, we do have a good amount of traffic outside of the US as well. So what geographies would work well from a testing standpoint there? Second, creating an initial media plan and really understanding how to utilize our broad versus niche targeting capabilities. That's going to be really important for making sure that we're testing out the entirety of the Reddit audience and getting a feel for the overall performance of the platform. 3, we want to test, creative formats, copy, CTAs. You'd be surprised of like the little tweaks you can make to a creative on Reddit and how much it can help improve performance by like 2 to 3x in some instances for like swapping in like a headline. I know it sounds crazy because on other platforms, it's mainly like that main asset that is a big lever, which it is on Reddit as well. But Redditors do like to read. So I'm going to talk through some things you can do to tweak things like headline, which is a very lightweight optimization. And this is by far the biggest lever you can pull as it relates to successful mobile gaming campaigns on the platform. So if you don't have good creative, may not work as well. But if you do have engaging creative and Redditors are into it, you'll see some really good success there. 4th, apply your learnings from your initial soft launch to your global launch. So we'll talk through what that looks like, and then look at the different types of activities you can view now within the Reddit ads dashboard. So, obviously we can, like I was mentioning at the beginning of the presentation, we can track all of those post-install events. So we can show installs, and then we can show all of the ROAS and purchase events as well. And I think on Reddit, one thing that we've seen the most success with when optimizing these campaigns is optimizing towards lifetime value and ROAS versus like an initial CPI. And we'll show you how you can do that within the ads platform. And then lastly, in some instances, you want to drive awareness of a new title. So I'm going to speak to brand solutions that we have on our platform available. And if you want more info on that, you can speak with your account manager or your client partner. But we do have some really good brand solutions that would complement your UA strategy. And so when you're thinking of big title launches, don't just think an evergreen UA strategy on Reddit, but think of really cool, flashy things you can do like takeovers and getting more eyeballs on your game. All right, so we'll hop into number 1. So identifying the markets for your soft launch. Now, as I had mentioned, Reddit is predominantly US, and it's been like that for a while. However, just opened up our office in the UK this week. got a lot of press from it, very exciting. That is about 10% of our overall traffic, a great country to test on the Reddit platform, followed by Canada, Australia, Germany, India, and then France. So these are our 6 most trafficked geos outside of the US. So I would recommend, if you do have a game and you are doing a soft launch and the soft launch country may be one of these geos, definitely test it out on Reddit. One thing we've also found is localized language. Reddit is English speaking only. However, localized language does go really well on the platform. So when we're looking at like Germany and France, I think it's always good to A/B test both in English and then in your local language as well. So in terms of soft launch, definitely look at these geos. That's not to say we don't have traffic in other geos outside of these, but this is where we're going to get the most scale for you. All right, secondly, creating an initial media plan utilizing broad versus niche targeting. So as I had mentioned, gamers live on Reddit in a variety of ways. They're not just in these hardcore gaming communities, they're living in communities outside of gaming as well. So my recommendation would be, excuse me, outside of gaming, think of your specific title and maybe other relevant interest groups that could be relatable to a user. And so in this instance, for this soft launch, fake proposal, we have gaming as an ad group. That's one of the ad sets where we're going to test all of the creatives against that. And then we're going to look at comics too, because this is a game that appeals to people who are into comic books. So why not test our comics interest group as well? And then lastly, we do have run of site as a targeting option. It's essentially targeting anyone on Reddit. I know that sounds a little scary, but because it's so much cheaper from an eCPC perspective, we could end up seeing better results at the end of the day. So when we're paying less for that user, we could end up seeing better CPAs and better ROAS. Definitely important to have like a definitive bidding strategy for the various targets. And again, this can be something in our self-service tool right now. We don't have like a recommended bid strategy. So what I would recommend is working with a client partner or an account manager to understand what the recommended bid would be for the various targets. And especially as it relates to seasonality, we're getting into crazy election holiday season. So bidding is going to be a really important part of making sure that you're scaling in an efficient way. So yeah, I would definitely recommend at least 3 targets to start. A lot of people ask, can I just target like 2 subreddits? And the answer is yes, you can target whoever you want on Reddit. Are you gonna get any scale? No. You might see good results in the first week. And then after that, it's going to get that audience is going to get exhausted quickly. So when thinking of a UA strategy that you can truly scale across the board on Reddit, I would definitely think of interest group targeting. And then if you're open to it, run of site. All right. Creative, biggest lever you can pull as it relates to performance. And this is like a true thing, tested it over and over again. Even when it comes to targeting, bidding, sure, those approaches help as well, but creative is where our advertisers win at the end of the day. Test, static versus video, short form headlines versus long form headlines. Playing around with the CTAs. I know super lightweight, super small, those could make a big difference as well. So obviously when it comes to the static imagery and the videos, those typically are things that we can't touch as it relates to optimizing or setting up, a specific creative for Reddit versus what you're running on all of your other UA channels or a Facebook, etc. And that's okay because we get it. We know you're bootstrapped. You don't have the resources to create Reddit specific creative. If you do, great. If you don't, no biggie. The headline is where you can actually make a big lift there. So wanted to call that out first. Secondly, video versus static. So what we see across the board within, this is not just gaming, but mobile app install in general, is static garners higher CTR, but video garners higher conversion rates, about 2x. So what we recommend doing as of today, because we don't have auto optimization yet, we will soon towards postback activities, is setting up statics and videos in different ad groups. And the reasoning for that is because statics will help with our delivery from a CTR standpoint. Maybe we'll want to bid a little lower because we won't see as high of conversions, but we'll still get consistent delivery. And maybe we will see some good success from statics. Everyone always asks, like, why do you even launch with statics when videos are going to win at the end of the day? And I think it's just getting a good baseline and initial learnings. And there are actually some instances, there are some campaigns, even in gaming, where I have seen statics outperform video. Not very often, but it does happen sometimes. So that's why I always recommend A/B testing both and seeing where you get the most success. So with the static lines, you're going to want to set up lower bids and maybe lower daily budgets to start. With the video lines, maybe bid a little more aggressively and then higher bid budgets, because that is what we're expecting to see the better down funnel results. And then from there, we can optimize and fine tune based on where we're seeing the most success. So static versus video, really important, and making sure that, again, you're breaking them up into different ad sets. If they run in the same ad set, the statics are going to get all of the impressions. Performance isn't going to look as great. And then I talked about video length again. Definitely test long versus short. We actually see the highest CTR on Reddit with headlines that are 200 to 250 characters versus the other channels where they say to keep it snackable. And those are around like 50. So Reddit is different. Redditors love to read. They love to get involved. They love to know what the game is about. And so because of that, definitely test long versus short. And then CTAs, those are pretty self-explanatory. But you've probably done other testing by now on your other channels to know what CTA works best for you. Cool. So last best practice, apply your learnings to the global launch. This is super important because you're going to have some initial learnings from the soft launch. Let's say you're going to be able to utilize these for your worldwide launch. What I will say is you might want to test everything all over again, just in the sense that people in the US can respond differently to certain creatives or different targets versus people in the UK or Australia or whatever country it may be. So I do some testing and learning again with the other geos just to make sure that everything is like lining up with what you saw in those initial results. Again, consider having up against the US just in that that's where the majority of our traffic is. However, as we do head into election, holiday time, auction competition is getting super hot. And so what we're actually noticing is our advertisers are skewing more of their spend, or not more, but then maybe it's more of an even spend against the US versus the international countries as well. And so that's something we want to be cognizant of, especially as competition increases in the US. Luckily, outside of the US, not as competitive yet. So this is where you can take advantage and really boost up your budgets in those large English-speaking countries that I spoke about earlier. And then lastly, which I think is the most important part, and I alluded to this in the beginning of the presentation, but LTV and ROAS is where Reddit wins. That's where we've seen the most success with all of our gaming advertisers. So when you're optimizing, you can kind of see here on the right, this is just like a quick screenshot of our ads platform. Rather than optimizing towards the CPI, which is kind of that like initial, or initial step in downloading the game, you should really try to optimize towards those lower funnel activities. I know everyone has different KPIs in terms of what they're looking at, but again, because we have the higher quality users, I think optimizing towards those higher LTVs is really where you can see success on Reddit at the end of the day. And a reminder, just in terms of our ad inventory, about 70% is in our mobile app today, and that's growing year over year. The app is only like 3 to 4 years old, which is crazy. So that will continue to grow, and about 40% is on iOS, 30% on Android. So I've run, everyone asks iOS versus Android, seeing more success, either or. I will say it depends on the title. I've seen it go both ways. iOS for certain titles, Android for others. So yeah, I don't really have a clear-cut answer there. The only way to know is to test and learn. Cool. And this is the last one. Sorry, I spoke ahead of myself. So last best practice, drive awareness of your title. When you are launching a title, there are various solutions that we have available via our brand team, our brand solutions. So front page takeovers, category takeovers, a trending takeover. Finding out more, just contact your client partner and they'll provide you more info. But again, this is a great way to get that additional exposure, get more eyeballs on that title that you're about to launch for the very first time. The one caveat to this, and this is in the little bullet point at the bottom, but just making sure that you're measuring these solutions differently from your evergreen strategy, because you're probably not going to get as efficient results as you would get from evergreen via auction. All of these brand solutions have flat rate costs and higher eCPMs at the end of the day. So if UA is your sole strategy and you're just looking for those down funnel results, might not be the best solution for you. But if there is a complementary like brand initiative that you have when you're launching the game on top of the evergreen UA strategy that you're running, definitely find out more about these solutions. They're great. Our takeovers, I think front page takeover, with the trending takeovers, 38 million impressions in a day. It's a good amount of impressions for one day. So if you want to do like a big launch with a splash, then definitely take advantage of that. All right, just doing a quick time check. Lastly, onto the case study. So CSR2, that was the car racing game. I actually worked closely with this advertiser, saw really good success from a down funnel standpoint, and their videos are awesome, super engaging, and Redditors are responding really well to their ads. So you can see here an example of what the ad looks like with the headline and the imagery, or I'm sorry, the video. So they saw really good success with video on Reddit. And you can see on the right-hand side the stats. So 1.5x higher lifetime value compared to other emerging social channels, 16% higher retention rate compared to organic. And then compared to other games on Reddit, this one did tremendously well. So 1.5x the conversion rate compared to our standard benchmark. So that was awesome. And in terms of their targeting, they really took a cool approach in that they didn't just look at gaming. They looked at, you know, Redditors beyond. So sports being relevant to car racing, automobiles obviously being like a big interest group, and then they also leverage run of sight as well. So there are definitely different ways in which you can find success with different audiences. It's just a matter, again, of taking a step back, thinking about that game that you have, and figuring out like which ones could be worth testing out. Cool. All right, so I'll pass it on to Kat for the key takeaways.
Oh, I was on mute. Okay, thanks so much, Josh. That was awesome. Also great to see Zynga really being able to understand that lifetime value of the advertiser and being able to, you know, reach a different audience, not just through gaming, but through auto targeting as well. But yeah, let's do a quick review. Great content here. Don't worry, I'll send this deck to you guys after. But so to review, as you guys know through Josh's stats, gaming is the largest category on Reddit. It's huge. The community is massive, 88 million monthly visitors. We're growing in engagements year over year, 67% since last year. So this place is the home for gamers and growing. But yes, definitely apply our gaming launch best practices. So identify your market for the soft launch. For a new game, you know, you got to take advantage of a soft launch in different countries and different markets. This will allow you to kind of test the waters and see what's going to really work well for you. Also, you want to create an initial media plan utilizing broad versus niche targeting. So segment out that targeting. Don't be afraid to test out run of sight. Who knows, you could achieve really cheap CPAs. Start off, like Josh said, with like at least 3 targets. And don't get too niche because, like Josh said, it's 2 subreddits, not very scalable. And you will reach those people in a few weeks and then they'll see the ad over, and that's not the best use of your money. So definitely expand, try interest group targeting. What other things could your game apply to? Is it cars? Is it comics? Is it food? Is it fashion? Just test it out. You'll never know, right? So that brings us to the third best practice, which is test various creative formats, copy, and CTAs. You'd be really surprised, like a interest group that you didn't think would resonate just might. So test, separate it out so you can see the different ad groups, and then from there you can cleanly and easily optimize, put more money towards the ones that are doing better. And apply your learnings to the global launch. What did you learn from your initial test, right? So of course, while different countries will respond differently, if you can see a clear winner in creative or a headline, definitely take that to your main campaign and maybe reiterate on that. Maybe that 300-word headline was doing way better than the 200 one. So think of more 300-word headlines. So yeah, just definitely take note. You've got this great playground to play in, especially with so many people being interested in gaming on Reddit. It's the perfect place to test things out. And yes, last but not least, yes, drive awareness of your title. While of course you're focused on UA, but definitely a brand play and brand awareness play might be a good idea. Maybe it's a takeover with someone that you need to speak with on the Reddit ad sales team. Maybe it's a CPM campaign, who knows? So just test it all out is the main best practice. And yeah, we're really excited to let you guys get started and try these out, and love to hear more about how your experience is. But yeah, I think we have time for a few questions. So first one, and we're still accepting questions, so you can definitely pop some more in as these maybe jog your idea of what you might want to ask. So Josh, first question for you. What if I want to negatively target Redditors that already have the game?
Really good question. Something I did not cover, so I'm glad you asked that. So we do have a capability to upload custom audiences via suppression file. So we just have to whitelist your username on the back end, but once we do so, you can essentially upload all of those MAIDs, GAIDs, IDFAs into each of the various ad groups. And from there, the negative targeting can start. Note that our match rate is a little lower than what you typically see on other platforms. I believe right now we're around 10%. So that's just something to take note, that it's not going to be like a perfect solution for that, but it definitely will help in terms of making sure that you're not wasting too many impressions on existing users, for sure.
Okay, that makes sense. That's definitely something to take advantage of. Okay, next question here. So thank you for all this great information. I'm excited to run a campaign. But before we get started, I have a few questions on how long should I run a campaign before making any optimizations or initial changes?
Another good question, and it's something I didn't cover as well, so I'm glad you asked it. So Reddit is different than some of the other built-out platforms that have been around for a while. Even though Reddit's been around for 13 years, our ads platform is still fairly new. So what I will say is we don't have a lot of those like auto optimization levers that some of the other platforms have today. With that said, there's a lot of exciting stuff on our roadmap, and it is to come in future quarters. But for the time being, because it is a little more manual, we do recommend giving your campaign at least 2 weeks of running without touching anything, right? Mm-hmm. So setting up your initial bids and budgets, setting up those initial creatives, ad groups that you have in place, and giving it a few weeks to run and really seeing what that delivery and performance looks like before really making any tweaks. Obviously, in that first week, if you aren't satisfied with like the scale you're getting, I would make some initial tweaks to the bids and whatnot. But for the most part, when it comes to like making any decisions around creatives or targeting, definitely give that a couple of weeks before touching anything. And we typically say, in terms of like a really getting a holistic picture, all of the various targets and all of the learnings you can get, 4 to 6 weeks is kind of like that initial phase one in terms of seeing how well the platform performs for you.
That totally makes sense. So it's not a launch and then test for a day and then shut it off. That's definitely not the way to go. You got to let it
Yeah,
ease into the platform. All right.
for sure.
Another one here. Excited to try out international countries. Can you remind me of the top trafficked international countries outside of the US that would be ideal for the test?
Yeah, definitely. And something I forgot to mention too is I know every title is different in terms of the way you measure attribution. When it comes to the countries outside of the US, to get more scale and efficiency, we actually typically recommend bundling them together in specific ad groups if possible. If not, totally get it. You may have like a different LTV attribution system for or in place for Australia versus Germany, and that's totally fine too. But as a reminder, top traffic countries outside of the US, starting with the United Kingdom, Canada, Australia, Germany, India, and then France. Those
All
are the
right.
top 6 outside of the US.
Yes. And don't forget, I'm sending this deck after, so you guys will have all of this information. So don't worry. um, and one more question here. So I'm very intrigued by your case study. Can you tell me a little bit more about LTV of a client on Reddit? Is it really that much more special?
Yeah, so obviously every game and title is going to have a different LTV model in terms of the way they look at the user quality and how they project the lifetime value of a specific user. So I won't be able to give away what CSR is specifically doing with their LTV because they obviously have like a certain day projection when they're looking at it. But I will say for the most part, when we are looking at LTV on Reddit versus other channels, it does tend to be higher. So again, all depending on that model, the projected amount of days in which you're expected to see a specific ROI and whatnot. But that is just kind of like a general, just a general finding that we're hearing across the market, which is really exciting.
Yeah, that's great. And you had mentioned you to look past the CPI number and really focus on, a really engaged user. And that's what we have on Reddit, people that are really into not just downloading the game, but playing, paying, and going on to the next level. So
Yeah.
that's really great that we have
Yeah.
at
To
Reddit.
add to that too, I mean, when you think about it on Reddit, I feel like maybe people are a little more cognizant of what they're clicking on. So when they're clicking to download a game, I think they're very aware of what they're downloading. And when they download it, they want to play it immediately and they want to get into it for the most part. Again, um, obviously every Redditor is different and whatnot,
Yes.
but I think what we've seen over just, the amount of campaigns that we've run is again, like the, you know, maybe the CTRs, the click-through rates are a little different than what you're expecting to see on other platforms. But when people do click through and ultimately install, they're in it. They're in the game. They're actively involved, and they want to play it more. So
That's great. I
yeah,
mean, that's what every gaming company is looking for, right? So glad to be able to share. That was a great question. But yeah. Okay. That's all we've got for today. And so thank you so much for your time. We will send a recap email that includes this material, but we're also going to have a recap post on Reddit ads, which is our advertiser community. If you guys haven't joined, definitely should. where I'll do a recap of kind of like the top kind of features of this and what we discussed in this webinar, a link to the recording. And it's just a place where you guys can, check in and maybe comment on other questions that you might have had that you weren't able to ask. And you'll also find the questions to today's answers to today's questions there as well. So all that information will be sent out via email. But yeah, thank you so much. And thank you, Josh, for your time and your knowledge.
Thank you.